for the late great Mike Leach. We had him here for 3 years. We got to cover him and hang out with him, and just an amazing, unique, brilliant guy and coach. So let's start with you talk about Swing Your Sword, which it was a great book. I've read it a couple of times, and how Leach challenged you to play with house money. You were not playing well in spring ball. Walk us through what Mike Leach said to you and what played out after that.
Yeah, certainly. So I was doing what a lot of athletes do. You know, you get to maybe the starting position, you get to the place that you dreamed of, and then you start playing like you've got something to lose. And I was playing with timidity. I was playing not to make a mistake. I was in a little bit of a quarterback competition with a younger guy who was really talented. I was always looking at what he was doing. And one day after practice, Leach just told me to stick around. I was like, oh boy, what's going to be the situation here? And he just looked at me dead in the eye and said, you got to start playing with house money. And we had a little casino called Zeppo's in Pullman, a little hole in the wall. And he said, imagine if I gave you $100 and I told you to go to Zeppo's. You'd play free. You'd play like you've got nothing to lose because it's not your money. It's house money. Instead, you know, if you played with your own paycheck, well, you're going to play like you've got something to lose. And you're going to play like, you know, with timidity, all that type of stuff. And, you know, he attributed that to what I was doing in my own game right now. Whereas I was a walk-on forehand, you know, I cut it loose. I'd had nothing to lose, and he made the point like, hey, now you're in this position, you need to keep that same mentality, and he wanted me to be decisive, right, wrong, or indifferent. He just wanted me to, in his words, swing my sword, and I thought, wow, that was such a huge coaching point for me, and I really think it's the greatest source of interference for any athlete. Is that they're so afraid of making a mistake, whether their coach is going to get mad at them or worrying what people are thinking about them or any of that stuff. And if they can learn and find the skill to just, you know, whether it's, they call it house money or swing your sword or cut it loose or let it rip, it really frees them open and up. And I noticed this in college coaching when I coached quarterbacks, and I notice it now in my mind strength training. It's the greatest skill, and it all stemmed from Coach Leach. Now, here's the important part, though, is as a coach, a lot of people want their player to do that. But a lot of coaches, what I say is they do Jekyll and Hyde coaching. Mm-hmm. So it's like, you know, the kid makes a mistake or the athlete makes a mistake, and they immediately yank them or they immediately reprimand them. And what they do is they create an environment of, like, scarcity. They create an environment where the athlete is constantly outcome focused rather than just doing their job and doing what the coach wants them to do and playing free. But the coach hasn't allowed that. So I was at a university, and the kid that I coached had a 66% completion percentage. Well, the next year he went to 56.8%. And the reason why, I talked to him, said, well, I was afraid to make a mistake. You know, the environment that was around him was a Jekyll and Hyde type of coaching in that regard. Now, from an athlete standpoint, you know, you've got to train yourself to be able to have the mind strength to handle it because you can't control the external. But as a coach, you're a good steward. I mean, you're the steward of the position you have, and you can create and help get the most out of your players. And I think that right there is one of the magic pieces that Coach Leach had with his quarterbacks. Just, hey, you've got the keys, go cut it loose. And even within his own, you know, your own offense, you're the guy in charge. You're audibling. You're doing all that stuff. You're gonna make mistakes. And if he just pulled you out because he didn't like the check you made, man, you're never gonna make a check. Versus he didn't. You know, he just let you play free, let you play within the offense that he wanted. And not to say he didn't coach you hard. We all know he coached us hard, but he allowed us the freedom to be able to do what he wanted us to do, and that was cut it loose, play with house money.
We're visiting with Luke Falk, Pac-12 all-time passing leader. He played for the late, great Mike Leach in the air raid. They had some big-time wins. Luke Falk, Mike Leach broke a 20-year bowl win drought as they beat Miami while Luke was starting and Mike was there. They had some big-time success at Washington State. Luke Falk joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance Guest Line. So, Luke, after you had that discussion, did it happen overnight, like locking in mentally and physically to play with house money? And did your play get better within the next few days during the spring?
It's like anything. It's not going to happen overnight, but it was a continual reminder to myself. And eventually, like all things, you keep that mentality and that attitude. It starts to become part of your identity and who you are. And then for that 2015 season, guess what? The first game, I was playing like I had something to lose. We were playing an FCS Portland State team, and we as a team did that, right? We're supposed to beat them. The weather was bad. It's a tight game, and then we we started playing with timidity, and they started playing with house money, and we ended up losing. And after that, it was like, all right, F it. And the rest of the season, we went on and had an amazing year, and that was really what kind of turned Washington State around. So it didn't happen overnight, and it's a constant reminder daily. It's even in today in my work environment, what I'm doing today, there's moments I got to remind myself, hey, play with house money. Quit playing like I've got something to lose here. So I think it's a daily reminder and a daily practice. And what's nice about it, though, it really is a decision. It can happen that day. Just a lot of people, for whatever reason, like myself, choose to not make it part of their identity or whatever that day. But each and every game you go into or situation you go into, it really is your choice. So like I said, my sophomore, junior year, great job playing with the house. My senior year, multiple times Coach Leach had to remind me because my mind was so fixated on what does this mean for my draft stock? What's it going to mean for my legacy? All those things that don't matter when it comes to helping you play football. And, he was a great coach and really was nobody would know who Luke Falk is without Mike Leach. That's for sure.
You were committed to Cornell, and then you took a walk-on opportunity with Washington State. Is that right, Luke?
Yep. Was committed to Cornell, and then their head coach left for the CFL to take a GM/head coaching job, and just kind of felt like the stars were aligning to take me to Washington State. And Coach Leach said that I'd have an equal opportunity to compete, which he was true to his word. How many coaches are really going to allow a walk-on to compete with their 4-star quarterback, who was one of the higher recruits that Washington State had over the last 20 years, and a highly touted quarterback. And Leach let us duke it out and compete, and I got lucky.
When did you so you come in, how long did it take you to learn the air raid when you got to Washington State, Luke?
Yeah. I played in a similar system beforehand where a lot was on the quarterback, but I would say in terms of like a real year, you knew it at a surface level, but then I think after a year I started understanding the checks and the run looks that we wanted to get into. And then really after that, you're going into my sophomore year, I felt like I had a pretty dang good understanding of what we're trying to do. So I'd say a year to get to the point where I felt comfortable making checks and seeing certain things in the run game. Beforehand I could make a tag because Leach let us tag on 4 verticals. If we had a guy we felt we had good leverage, we could call his number up. But I'd say about a year in order for me to feel comfortable making certain run checks. And then, in year 2, going into my redshirt sophomore year, I felt like I really had a great understanding. And that only, just progressed. But a large part is his practice style. How many coaches, I know everyone talks about that 6-day where it's 4 verticals, but really I call it the quarterback check day, is because he just gives you the formation and you check. You can check 4 verticals, you can tag 4 verticals, you can check a screen, you can check run. And how many OCs and head coaches are letting their quarterbacks 4 days in camp in spring just have a whole check day? That really creates great mastery,
Wow. Luke Falk, Pac-12 all-time passing leader, played for the late, great Mike Leach, the Pirate. He joins us on the Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. If you had to pinpoint one thing that the factor of whether or not you're successful playing for Leach and in the air raid, is it the practice style or is it something else, Luke?
In terms of what makes Leach's system go, is that kind of what you're asking?
Yeah,
from a quarterback standpoint.
Yes. What makes Leach's system go, and what makes the quarterbacks really thrive in it?
I would say that, well, consistency. You know what you're working on. I think so many times, and he had an identity. We had an identity in air raid. Like, we knew what we were going to run. I got into college coaching, and I got to the NFL and all that other stuff, and you realize that a lot of people build their offenses around, week to week, trying to, maybe see what the opponent did before them, and then kind of take a couple plays. And really, they're like an Applebee's offense. They have everything on the menu, but they're not really great at anything. Versus Leach was more of the in and out style, where we had a limited menu, but we would dress it up. We had certain concepts, and we could dress them up. And when you practice one concept, you repped you repped every version of that concept from the quarterback standpoint, because the reads were always the same. I so many times I see these offenses where they mess with the reads all the time, or you have a lot of defensive coverage type looks where the quarterback's going off of what the defenders are doing. Leach, he didn't care about that. He's like, well, what if the guy falls down, or what if they mess up? He just wanted us to keep things very simple and have pure progression and go through our reads, and we would eventually find the open guy, which I think is brilliant, because my wife could go and play in the air raid offense without knowing anything about a defensive coverage at all, because if I taught her the reads, she could eventually find, hey, so-and-so's open. Now, if you pair that with understanding, certain looks defensively, can help you speed up your decisions that much faster. But at the root of it, the simplicity that the air raid provided for the quarterback and the consistency really allowed them to master it. And then I also think, people joke about Leach going down to Key West in the off season, which, that is pretty funny and all that looking back on it. But to me, I think it's a brilliant moment again, because what did he do for the quarterbacks? Hey, you're writing the scripts rather than everyone holding their hand and giving them the scripts of what they want to run at 7-on-7. No, you're the coach. You organize 7-on-7. You organize what you need to do. And really what he did is he gave player empowerment. And so I think just his simplicity was really genius. His approach, that less is more, is I think that's really kind of what set him apart, and the consistency. And you knew what was expected of you, so it allowed you to play with house money, because you had repped your job, you had repped your role and your responsibility so many times. There wasn't a lot of second guessing. There wasn't a lot of gray area.
Luke Falk played for Mike Leach. He joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance Guest Line. You're listening Out of Bounds on ESPN 105.9 The Zone. When he did coach you hard and was upset and was very candid, would you say there were times where he was really, really tough on you as the head coach and QB coach?
Yeah, certainly. If you go back and look at one of my tweets, I wrote a similar thing where a mind strength skill I had created because of that is called what, not how. There was one time we lost a cow. My senior year, we were 6-0 going into the game. We're 8th in the country. We're rolling, and we ended up having a nightmare. It was Friday the 13th up in Cal Berkeley. I threw 5 interceptions. I got sacked 9 times. Even staying the stat line is just like hard for me to even fathom. But the next day, Leach comes in on Leach time about a couple hours late and looks at me, says, "You got to be the slowest mother effer I've ever seen. I'm so tired of you standing back there like an effing statue." And he went on for 10 minutes. This was just going into me. And what a lot of people do is they take it personally. A lot of people do is they are worried about how they look in front of their teammates. Thankfully, at this point in my career, I had done this skill where it was like, all right, what's being said? What's the coaching point I can take from this? Even though a lot of people maybe can't find one. It was, oh, get rid of the ball, no sacks, no negative plays. And instead of getting wrapped up on how it was being delivered to me, which that skill allowed me to use Coach Leach as a great asset, because there were many moments like that in my career where I could easily have gotten very hung up in how it was being delivered and took it personally and shut down and moped or screw you, coach. Not saying I didn't have those moments at times, right?
Sure.
Human being.
Sure.
But for the most part, trying to keep my mindset on, okay, what can I take from this? Not how is it being said. And what it allowed me to do is not be on what so many athletes get on, is what I call the teeter-totter trap. It's like, you know, you have a good outcome, or somebody says something nice to you, or maybe you compare yourself to somebody else and that teeter-totter goes up. Well, the opposite happens if all those things don't happen, and you're just living on this vicious playground right there that you really don't have a lot of control of, because all those things are external. So everything I tried to do within my career, and Leach was a great teacher in this, is how can I master my inner world? How can I focus on how I perceive things, or the story I make up about it, or what I take from how somebody's delivering this to me? And he was a great teacher in that, because he provided, you know, many opportunities for me to work on what, not how.
And this led you to post-career. You're a mind strength and high performance coach, and I assume QB coach too. Tell me what you're doing.
Yeah, so I was in college coaching, had some family health stuff go on. I got out of that, and I love coaching. I mean, I really feel like that was what I was born to do. And I'm not doing any quarterback coaching anymore. I do work with a lot of quarterbacks, but it's only on the mind strength standpoint. It's only on trying to be able to help them unlock their greatest asset, which is their mind. Because if you think about it, we work on our body, we work in the weight room, we work with maybe a specialized coach to all get strong. But when it comes down to your worst and best performances, everybody I've asked, that has nothing to do with their physical capabilities. It had everything to do with the state of mind that they're in. Yet we don't train that. Yet a lot of people don't work on it, even though they know it's the most important thing. So I bridge the gap, and I'm somebody that I love, to say this of, I've got RLE. I had a parent ask me one time, what are my credentials? I said, real life experience. You know, I've done these things. It's not something I just read in a book and, hey, I'm going to teach you now, even though I've never lived it myself. So it's been a lot of fun for me to pay it forward to some kids that I've seen a similar situation to me, and be able to help speed their growth up and help them not get on that teeter-totter trap like I was early on in my career.
He is Luke Falk, Pac-12 all-time passing leader, played for Mike Leach, now mind strength and high-performance coach. He joins us on the Out of Bounds show. Do you work – I mean, I assume you could work with golfers, with softball players, or do you just stay with football? And does this bleed over into people, business execs? Where are you with who you're working with, Luke?
Yeah, great question. So all athletes, work with coaches. It's funny, I even had a professional team roper, or not professional, I guess he's amateur, but he goes every other weekend and, reach out about this stuff. And so anyways, what I love about mind strength is it's applicable to any arena, right? Sports, any sport, any gender. And then, the business world, it's been fun. I'm posting some things on LinkedIn and really getting a lot of engagement there, because I think the sales world sees how important this is and how applicable it is. And that's picking up more steam, working with some sales teams and getting some keynotes ready to go for those guys and those business women as well.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations on your success.
Yeah, thanks. I got a book coming out October 24th, I think is the official date. It's called The Mind Strength Playbook. So if anybody is wanting to elevate their game or really just master their inner world, right? There's so much noise going on. There's so much things outside of our control in the external, right? Political, this, that, and the other that we can't control. But if we can learn how to master our mind and our inner world, we're going to be all right.
Yeah, I think about the U.S. Open yesterday and guys just melting down. golly, the course was brutal and the rain and everything going on, and a couple of guys, stayed in the saddle. It's, as you know, it's extremely difficult to do.
It is. And it's interesting when you hear, the guys that did fall off the wagon, their post game or their post match comments of talking about all the things they can't control, the external, the weather delay, the weather, how poor the conditions were, rather than the guys that stuck to it. They're talking about their process.
That's right.
So one's focused on the external, one was focused on the internal. One's focused on things they can control, one's focused on things they couldn't. And that's a big difference right there.
No doubt. We'd like to have you on again closer to your book being released. And how
That'd
about that?
That'd be awesome. Yeah, that'd be great. I appreciate it.
Man. Yeah. All right. So Luke Falk, all-time Pac-12 passing leader. And I think he knows he was fortunate, blessed to play for the Pirate and Mike Leach. We were fortunate to have him for 3 years here. Luke, thanks so much. And
Thanks.
I'd like to do this again soon, okay?
That'd be great. I appreciate it. You guys have an amazing day.
Thanks, man. Luke Falk, that was fantastic. On the Out of Bounds show, Leach challenged him. Play with house money. Swing your sword. He did it. Became the all-time Pac-12 passing leader. We're live in the Bank Plus studio. Brian O'Connor, Hail State Baseball.